If you haven't heard of Chef RPG yet, I'm about to put you onto something very special. It is personally my new obsession, and I have a lot of information about it to share with you. So this is not my type of game at all, usually. However, I watched the trailer, read the Kickstarter page, and watched all 11 developer blogs on the developer's YouTube channel. And when I tell you you should be buzzing over this game, I mean it. Let's go over how this game even came to be, the development process this far, the gameplay loop that is intended, the future plans for the game once it launches, a lot of information from the dev blogs, and my overall thoughts on the game. So there's a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe because I'm definitely going to be posting more about this game on this channel. So what is Chef RPG? Basically, your character is a traveling chef given the task of reviving La Sequoia, a once famous restaurant in White Ash Harbor. You'll begin your new life in this beautiful seaside town, which was a once thriving tourist destination. You will have to hunt, harvest, and shop for different ingredients. And along the way, you'll befriend the locals and help them revive the town as a tourist hotspot. It's an open-ended RPG, and you get to build your food empire exactly the way you desire. And so what does that mean? Well, there are multiple restaurant types. A main component of the game that I am really loving because it's going to provide so much replayability. So basically, in addition to the freedom of playstyle you have, you must choose what kind of restaurant you would like to run. The game offers 5 different restaurant operation modes: restaurant, social house, a pub, a confectionery, or a tea house, and they each have their own unique benefits and limitations. You will also have the freedom to choose what times your restaurant opens and closes. So you could set up like a breakfast cafe or a midnight sushi bar. You get to choose, but you have to make sure whatever you do choose, you can stock the restaurant properly. So you can collect hundreds of unique furniture pieces to decorate your restaurant, and each piece of furniture will have its own unique function and a secret hidden style value that is in place to incentivize placing more decorative items. So the more you decorate with the rare furniture, the more style points your restaurant will have, and the happier the customers will be. There's also a day and night cycle, including seasons and different types of weathers, more than just sun and rain, which we will get to later when we talk about the development videos on YouTube. Chef RPG is going to feature an active world clock day-night cycle. So basically, there will be a limited time component, and deciding what to do each day can be an important decision. Do you spend your day climbing up, let's say, the volcano to gather a rare herb, or maybe visit the famous bathhouse and hang out with the locals? You might even want to take a train to the other city to check out the world-renowned culinary academy, or collect ingredients that you can't get in the base town. There is a world where you don't even buy any ingredients and you only harvest, or there's a world where you don't harvest any ingredients and you exclusively shop for your items. So really, it's up to you and your playstyle. So far, what I've noticed in this game for activities is there's gathering items, as I mentioned, hunting, combat, foraging rare ingredients, restaurant design, creating a unique menu, running the restaurant itself, side quests, romance, and I'm sure some other mechanics that we don't even know about yet, because I know that from what I've watched, the developer is trying to keep as much as possible a secret so that people can enjoy exploring and discovering within the game. There's also going to be an interactive and diverse skill tree that you can't max out every skill. You're only going to earn a limited amount of points, so that's going to help you choose your own adventure. What do you want to get really good at? What skills do you want to put the most points into? And then that will help you specialize your playstyle. Again, that is huge for replayability, which I think is maybe the biggest challenge that I have found with games, is that they're fine to play once through, but if they're not bringing you back, I don't know, it feels kind of flat. And that's why games like Stardew Valley that are so replayable do so well. And this game took some inspiration from Stardew Valley in the best way, so I'm really excited for that. So now that we know what the game is, how did the game even come about? So let's meet Noah. He's a literal architect turned into game developer from Canada that quite frankly was made to create games from what I've seen so far. He has such a grasp on what makes a good player experience, and he has played so many games of all different genres and is putting elements of all of them into this game. I think he really understands what makes open world RPGs satisfying to play, and some of his inspiration games are just very niche and addicting games, so that already makes me think it's going to be a good game. Noah also brought on someone named Nikita as a character designer and pixel artist, and Tim as a composer, and they seem like quite the dream team. The game started in development in 2020, and by November 16th, 2021, a Kickstarter launched that not only got fully funded, but also hit all the stretch goals and additional content goals. So this, of course, delayed the release of the game from 2023 to 2024, but the scope of the game will be much bigger. The alpha is actually going to start on April 6th of 2024, and then there will be an early access in July of 2024. This will allow players to start the base game with some of the endgame content being completed by September in a future patch. We'll talk about this more later. They also plan to release the game first to PC and Mac on Steam, and then later to the Nintendo Switch. I think it's really exciting that there's going to be a Nintendo Switch release, because I think this is the perfect game for handhelds. So far, there have been 11 development blog videos that have been posted to Pixel Architect's YouTube, which I will link below, and probably about 10 more videos that focus on certain aspects of the game. Now, what I will tell you is it does reveal a lot about the game, and so if you want to play from a fresh experience, I would maybe skip watching them all, because I got a lot of detail and you might not want that much. So I'm going to give you some of the highlights to get you hyped for the game without revealing too much. But I spent about 3 hours watching all these, and it made me very excited for this game. Starting with the most recent devlog, number 11, we talk about questing. It's going to be a modular quest system, so that just means there's more variety of how to complete quests beyond just simple fetch quests. I need this item, bring it back to me. All the quests will contain multiple steps and things to do, and will also help progress the story. The developer did mention RuneScape as a source of inspiration, however, also clarified that the quests won't be as time-consuming or complex as some of the RuneScape ones. If you've ever played RuneScape, sometimes the quests can take you like 8 hours to complete, and he doesn't want that, but he took, again, inspiration from that quest system because it does work so well and it keeps the game very fresh. Then in another development blog, number 10, he talked about a farming system. He indicated he does not want this to be a farming game, so he's limiting the farm space with a greenhouse to focus on making ingredients or dishes to sell at the restaurant versus a common strategy in Stardew Valley of just selling a bunch of raw ingredients to make money. So he wants to kind of veer away from that unless he wanted to make it specifically a farming game, which he didn't. He mentioned Stardew Valley a lot in the development blog, and I think that's good because he understands what makes that game so replayable. Also with the farming system, there is going to be a very simple plant, bush, and tree system, with each one taking up a little bit more space and providing a little bit more value. There's also going to be a lot of nice details, like small borders when you plant so you can see and map your greenhouse, and you can tell he really wants to reduce the amount of mundane things in the game. In development blog number 9, there was brewing talked about. So there is an option to acquire all ingredients without buying them. Different systems are in place to brew different alcohols. So again, depending on your restaurant and if you are going to be focusing on alcohol, that might be something you dive very deep into and invest in. There's going to be a minigame for starting all the processes, and then because there's going to be multiple steps depending on what liquor you are going to produce, they're going to be more simplified at the end. So I think that's kind of neat that we get a minigame for each different type of alcohol or brewing component that we make. So I think that's great too. I think he also mentioned that he might have an option to turn off mini games if you don't really want to play them. So I kind of hope that feature comes in case you're doing a lot of brewing. You might not want to play a mini game over and over and over. It might get a little old. So I like that we're going to have the choice. Devlog 8 and 7 just built on some of the things that are talked about in the first ones, including the cutscenes and the mini games and what that will look like, and then also what is going to make the characters come alive. In Devlog 6, this one was really cool because he talked about making the town come alive. So there's going to be animated screens and signs in the town, which I think will be so cool because it will make it feel like it's not a static town and that things are actually happening. As well, there's going to be NPCs that are unnamed, or maybe they'll have names, but they're not going to be main NPCs that are just going to be roaming through the town. So it's always going to feel a little bit different. I think that is very cool. There's also going to be a fog system. So I mentioned more weather than just rain and sun earlier, and basically there might be some foggy days where it's just a little bit harder to see, and then there might be some ultra foggy days where you can barely see it all and it will make everything much more difficult. It was kind of still in the works and development, so I'm not sure exactly where he landed on that. I think having maybe a couple more types of weather that will just switch up the weeks and the months that you're going to play through, that's just never a bad thing in my opinion. So in the devlog number 5, I think that I'm going to probably make a vegetarian restaurant because I'm not thrilled with a hunting aspect, but it does look pretty cool. So I'm sure I'll do some hunting in a second playthrough, but the first playthrough, I think I'm going vegetarian. Basically, there's going to be a hunting and a foraging system. So as I mentioned with the skill tree, you could do so many different playthroughs. You could get really good at hunting, which will maybe allow you to have better quality of meats harvested from each animal you kill, or with foraging, if you invest into those skills, you might be able to find rarer and rarer ingredients and plants. There is also an option for no gathering or hunting and just buying all the ingredients from town so that you don't have to do any of that extra work, and then that will allow you much more time to work on quests and relationships with the NPCs, which again, some people, that's their favorite part of the game, and allowing players to have flexibility and make meaningful choices will just enhance the gameplay further. Another thing to mention about the animals that you can hunt is you can attack them, but they can also attack you or run away, so you need to be accurate. So there's going to be a little bit higher stakes. We've seen that a little bit in fishing mini games in most of the farming sims, that you don't just automatically catch the fish. So this is kind of something that is brought to life in a different way. So when I watched the devlog number 4, it was all about the restaurants, which is the main component of the game, and he mentioned that it really looks hectic from a lot of the footage, but wanted to make it very clear that it actually has a pretty simple and defined gameplay loop so that it won't be too overwhelming. I think that would be something that would maybe draw people away from this if it feels too complicated, and I'm kind of reassured personally that it's not going to be. Customers will use a pathfinding script to find an empty seat, and then they will order up to 4 dishes at random, and it is your job to hire staff to make the food and servers to serve the customers, but at the start, you will have to do it all on your own. You'll also get a financial report at the end of the day to show your revenue, cost, profit, and that will help you make important decisions later down the line. Within this, he also mentioned there's going to be a relax mode or high stakes mode, depending on what you want to do, because restaurants just can be stressful in general. So if you want a high stakes where you have to make good profit to progress and you have to do a good job, and if that's fun for you, great. But if you just want to run your restaurant and it's not really gonna deteriorate your progress if you don't get things perfect, that will be an option too. So again, it's really going to appeal to a wide player base. So in the devlog 3, 2, and 1, it really talked about the base creation of the game, character customization, stat wheels for the employees that you can hire, and then also just how the restaurant works. So the key highlight here is depending on the type of restaurant you have, your menu items changes. So he gave an example that on one type of restaurant, you might have 5 appetizer, 5 main courses, and 5 dessert options in a standard restaurant. But then if you go towards like more of a dessert restaurant, you might have more drink options, and then a couple appetizers, and then 8 dessert slots. So again, we're seeing a theme here where there's so much difference in how you can play the game that I can't wait to try out multiple different types of restaurants and styles of playing. The art style is really intriguing because it takes aspects of Western culture, Eastern culture, architectural design, and cyberpunk to really make a cool and unique world. In some of the vlogs, even the way the buildings are built, designed, laid out are so precise. And if that wasn't cool enough, a lot of the actual buildings are based on movies from Studio Ghibli, and there's a lot of inspiration taken from there. And if you know anything about Studio Ghibli, you'll know that their art and able to create a very vibrant world is unparalleled. So I'm really excited about that. Because the art style is so detailed, this is actually one of the reasons that they're going to do early access. He mentioned that you'll be able to play through most of the game in the starter city, which is White Ash Harbor, and then some of the later game content and some things that will just add to that late game fantasy of the final steps of your restaurant and optimizing, things like that will come with the second city, which is called Billboard City. So White Ash Harbor, starter city, it's not really focused on technology, but you can see technology kind of creeping into their lives. It's more of a traditional town. And then Billboard City is going to be the high-tech, high-stakes, really cool city. So in the early access, they're going to complete the art and some of the content for Billboard City. And I'm sure if this game is a success, by not finishing Billboard City right away, maybe some other ideas that come to light through the early access can be implemented later, and then maybe even have a lot more content in the end game in Billboard City, which I personally hope for, because I think that would just make such a cool playthrough experience. My overall thoughts on the game is that it is going to be good. Based on all these things we've discussed, it seems like it won't get repetitive. There is a large enough scope that it will feel like a game that is really immersive and you can sink a lot of hours into. Of course, there's always the chance that when a game releases, even if it has good ideas, that it kind of falls flat and it's not as fun as we want. I really don't think that is going to be the case in this game, so I am going to remain very keen on it, but I also am just aware that not every game lives up to the hype of the development time. I know they put a lot of work into developing the characters. He originally was just making all the characters himself, and then when Nikita came on board, she really started bringing them to life, rewriting some of the personality traits, the scripts, and so by bringing somebody else on that is a specialist in that, I think will just improve the social aspect of the game, which honestly is important, because if you don't feel like the characters are interesting, it just gives you no real reason to interact and build bonds with everybody that lives in the town. Once we get another update, I will definitely post another video. Maybe once the alpha's out, there'll be some more content to review and talk about. But in the meantime, let's just stay tuned for this one. It's definitely one that I think I will play a ton of when it comes out. Let me know in the comments if this seems like your style of game and anything that maybe excited you about what I've revealed so far, and let's talk about it.